Welcome to Down Earth Astrology and Primal Girl Wellness. This is Ms. Jenny and I am your astrologer. Today's video is about the sun or your zodiac sign as it pertains to mental health, emotional well-being, and of course, identity. So before we get started, I want to tell you a little story about people I've known in my lifetime and things that I've seen that are not very good. Examples of what not to be, right? So there was a woman I knew once who was a serial marriage person. I mean, getting married was her career. She had to be married. When I knew her, she had to be married like 3, 4 times at that point, and was having an affair with a married man that was going on for 20 years. Oh my God, it was a hot mess. So, she had her issues with men. I mean, she had some issues, and like a lot of people, who have issues with men or women, they tend to be in deep denial about it, right? So they'll have these wickedly dramatic, messy affairs with other people's spouses, because it's kind of a weird dynamic. So in case you didn't know, right, one of the things that happens when people get involved with married people is the single person involved with a married person. It's like this weird, on the one hand, competition. So they're competing with a spouse. Ooh, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this. When is that person going to leave them for me? So there is a point when the relationship changes and it's no longer about infatuation, but literally about competition and winning the contest, beating the spouse and claiming the husband or wife, as a prize. Yeah, because that's healthy. And on the other hand, simultaneously, it's also, it's also an unconscious way of reinforcing their deepest fears and negative biases about that particular gender or whoever their love interest happens to be, right? So if you're a woman and you're involved with a married man on an unconscious level, what you're really doing is reinforcing the idea that you can never trust a man, certainly not a married man, because after all, see what he's doing to her. It's the same thing that you expect your last one to do to you, and future ones. You just keep reinforcing this thing in the back of your mind that men can never be trusted, right? And if you're a man involved with a married woman, it's the same thing. Like you're just reinforcing in your mind that women are these horrible, horrible creatures that can never be trusted, because you're involved in a situation where someone is literally doing the thing that they should not be doing. So, needless to say, she had a lot of issues with men. I'm sorry, I'm on the tail end of a cold right now. Hang on. So this video might seem a little choppy because I'm going to periodically stop it so I can cough. Okay, so she had a lot of issues with men, and it doesn't matter if these issues were because of her father, or her father abandoning her, or, whatever her father did was awful, or if it was because she didn't get a lot of attention or enough attention in her developmental years as an adolescent. People often say that these women who go get these giant implants and become strippers and do all these things that are specifically designed to pull the male gaze, right? In its most animalistic low form, right? If you engage the libido, like you're literally not dealing with a human being at that point, you're dealing with animal urges. So that's not the highest expression of manhood you're working with here, or womanhood. So, we like to say that women who specifically target that are going for the cheapest, easiest form of attention pulling from men that they can get. And they are. But we also like to believe and tell ourselves that it's because they've got daddy issues. Well, the fact of the matter is it's not always daddy issues. Sometimes it's because these girls, just like boys during their developmental years and adolescence, were overlooked, ignored, harassed, bullied, or otherwise made to feel invisible or ugly. And to compensate for that, they're working even harder to make sure that they're getting the attention they did not get then. So adult female bullies, those, right? The ones who are always jealous of anything younger or prettier walking through the door. Typically, if you look at their history, were not the most attractive people during adolescence, and they're making it up for it with a vengeance. Men do this a lot too. Men who were gawky, scrawny, like looked over, passed over, were always in the friend zone as adolescents, often make up for that in their adulthood. Unfortunately, for some of them, it's in very hostile ways. Hence, we have incels now and all sort of stuff. So all of this to say that not everything goes back to the parents. Sometimes it's literally issues that we're carrying from adolescence. So in her case, we don't really care whether it was her actual father issues or if it was adolescence issues or even, it's the first husband that, broke her heart and betrayed her issues. We don't care. What we do care about is that this woman had issues she was in complete denial about, and also was projecting her issues onto the men in her family, not her husband's necessarily. She kept getting rid of those. She just went through those like playing cards. But more specifically, she had one son who bore the brunt of a lot of her male issues. And she had a grandson. She had two grandsons, as a matter of fact, but one in particular seems to take the worst of it. And he is the focus of this story. So, one of the things that she was very good about is saying a lot of, well, of course, because you're, and then insert sun sign. Well, of course, because you're a Sagittarius. Of course, because he's a Virgo. Well, what did you expect? He's a Capricorn. Which was always followed by or said specifically to validate and reinforce some really negative character trait about the poor boy in question. It was not good. It was not good. And the thing about it is, as a developing identity, as we all are in our youth, well into our 20s, it's not really until we're in our 30s that we have a fairly strong sense and secure grasp on who we are realistically, right? Up until then, it's all exploration and building, identity building. So imagine that you are in those tender ages between birth and your mid to late 20s, and you have this female authority figure in your family who's reinforcing and validating and repeating, and emphasizing all these negative character traits when you displease her with things like, well, of course, because you're a Virgo. Well, of course, because you're a Capricorn. Of course he's, money grubbing. He's a Capricorn. Of course he's only going to be about business. He's a Capricorn. Of course he's not going to go near, anybody who's not anorexic. He's a Virgo. He's terrified of fat. Oh, wow. Yeah, she's a therapist dream, boy. Oh, my God. So, as time went on, I lost touch with the family for a long time. We go on and do our things, right? And the last I had heard about the boys was years later. And the one boy who had suffered with alcoholism problems most of his youth and adulthood, imagine why, that was the son. And the grandson from one of the other children she had, I heard about, and he was living somewhere else in this big house he could barely afford, and he was really mean to his wife, and he was very selfish and cold, and all the Capricorn things that she said Capricorns were. And just not a nice person, not by any stretch of the imagination. He had literally turned into exactly what she expected him to turn into, or predicted he would turn into. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So these are unfortunate things, and all this is to say, as we go through this, don't be that person. And she's not the only one. I've heard other people do this. It's very distressing. This is one of the reasons I really don't teach astrology, because a little knowledge is truly a dangerous thing, especially in the hands of the irresponsible and the unethical. And there's a whole lot of people who just have all... I'm not going to say it. There's a very good writer on Twitter, Stone Kettle Station, and his favorite phrase is all the self-awareness of a dog licking its own in public. So, yeah. And these are the people who would go and, say these things to other people. Well, it's because you're an Aries. Okay. I can't. I just can't. Anyway, so now that I've given you all of that, let's get into this. Let's get into the actual work. So this is going to be like a college lecture. You're going to have to take notes. There's no diagrams. I'm literally doing this off the cuff while I'm thinking about it, and I'm feeling motivated. So the sun in your chart is the heart of the chart. Just like our solar system, the sun is the heart of our solar system. The sun is the pulse, the blood, the fire, the thing that literally lights up your chart, right? We need that sun to be healthy and vibrant and dynamic. When the sun is undernourished or when the sun has been distorted and twisted, it will express its more negative expressions. So we know that the sun in different signs has a specific style that it's comfortable expressing itself in. The sun in Aries expresses itself and has the most comfort expressing itself in very different ways than the sun in Virgo. So the signs themselves show us things that make it easier for us to fortify and build up our suns. Now, in terms of identity, it's not the be all end all, because you, my friend, and your identity is much more magnificent, complicated, and just wow, layers upon layers upon layers of intricate dimensions and growth experiences. And you're here for a reason, and your reasons for being here and the things you're supposed to experience and the potentials of who you can become as a human being is a lot more complicated than just a sun sign. But the sun's a good place to start. So when you look at the sun in a chart, or you look at the sun sign of a person, what you're looking at is where they're most comfortable being their most authentic selves, how they're most comfortable expressing their authentic selves. The most challenging thing we have to our identity, and this is well beyond astrology, this is in general human nature, the most challenging thing as in terms of our identity is being able to express ourselves authentically. First, we need to know who we are, and that means we need to know what we're comfortable with and what works for us. And then we need to be able to be honest and authentic with that. These are some serious challenges no matter how old you are, but once you get there, you never go back. So we're going to start with the sun and the water signs, and then we're going to kind of work through them as groups and then individual signs, I think. All right. So, for instance, if you have the sun in a water sign, Scorpio, Cancer, or Pisces, one of the things that we know is that your most authentic self is at its best, shines the brightest, feels the most authentic and genuine for you when you are expressing or coming from a place of caring and compassion and an awareness of much, much bigger pictures, when it's really about the spiritual glue that kind of holds us together, right? So they say that the water signs or the element of water is very psychic, but what they're really meaning is that the element of water is that invisible, intangible connection that runs between people, that sympathetic vibe we have, or a apathetic vibe that we have when we encounter other people. It's that invisible radar, that string that ties us all together. So with the sun and the water sign, the things that will help fortify it is being given opportunities to express caring and compassion and service, because it's the other part of water, right? Service in ways that feel good or positive, help other people, allow them to be genuine and generous, and also not necessarily being taken advantage of. You know, the challenge with water signs, especially the sun in water signs, is that their good nature often gets taken advantage of by less scrupulous people or more selfish people, and Lord knows there's plenty of that in the world. So learning boundaries, which is also something water as an element is not comfortable with. Water diffuses and moves through and around and under and between boundaries. Water knows no boundaries. So the challenge in the material world for water signs, especially if your sun is in a water sign, is learning how to create healthy boundaries that are not so flexible, they're porous. So there's that. Now, on the positive side, when the sun is in a water sign and we're feeding it, you have somebody who is naturally creative, tuned in to the divine universe. It's often receiving inspiration and guidance and a lot of protection. from there has a radar that's like a spider web, can pick up anything and everything all the time, even if they don't necessarily understand what's happening just yet. Okay. And they have the ability to be there for you, be present and see you, really see you at your most vulnerable moments without judgment. Water signs, sun and water signs are beautiful placements when they're healthy. When it's toxic, undernourished, or unhealthy, the water signs can become vampiric. They can become parasitic. They can become so weak that their weakness becomes the dominant force in a group or a room. They can become confused. They can become lazy. They can spend too much time trying to escape, either through movies, drugs, alcohol, sleeping, anything to avoid reality, because it's literally too much for them to deal with. At every turn, we have to make choices about how we're going to manage ourselves. One of the things to understand, if you're dealing with somebody who has the sun in a water sign, you got to let them have their time out from the world. You've got to let them have their time off. And if that means for them taking a day out of the week where they sleep 12 hours, then let them have it. Let them have it. Their nervous systems are very easily overwrought with, the rough and tumble world as we know it. So if you have the sun in Pisces, it's even more important you take excellent care of yourself. More important, you really establish good, healthy boundaries, fix those psychological nets so that toxic personalities are not constantly coming through. Nourish yourself with really clean, whole foods and people and situations. Recognize your codependencies when they happen. Hiding behind other people and hiding behind relationships and hiding behind sleep or anything that limits your dealing with the world is not helping you. You have to be in the world. You just have to find a better way to deal with it. If you are a Scorpio, it's very important that you don't get so bogged down, because literally you guys are your own walking conspiracy theories. It's important you don't become so bogged down in these hidden vibes that everybody's giving off and everybody's secrets and trying to find the real truth, and everything, that you lose sight of or perspective when it comes to reality. Remember, everybody's a little dirty. Everybody's got their stuff that they don't want people to know about. You don't need to know everything in somebody's closet. You weren't invited. Get your nose out of there. And not everybody's out to hurt you. Some people are just selfish, but that doesn't mean that they're maliciously selfish. And some people are malicious in spite of the fact that they look like they're being very generous to you. And it's all very confusing, but you should consider maybe relaxing that paranoia muscle and working on fortifying the faith and trust nature of water. So in this lifetime, your faith is going to be sorely tested over and over and over again. So faith and forgiveness are going to be huge crosses for you to bear. And the ultimate lessons you're going to have to learn with every single important relationship. And Cancer, with the sun in Cancer, one of the things that I would probably say in terms of fortifying and nourishing your sun has a lot to do with emotional connections, right? So we know that Cancer is about family and relationships and tribe, blah, blah, blah. But more than that, Cancer is a remarkably creative, deep well of stuff, memories, sentiment, information, history. So with Cancer, one of the things to understand is that you are the guardian or the sentry that stands between two worlds. So you're always moving back and forth, connecting the two, bringing information from one direction to the other. It's very important that you don't get stuck in one place or another, the past or the future kind of thing, or in one limited, isolated group. It's very important that you stay mobile and you stay flexible enough to keep moving back and forth and transferring things and not hanging on too selfishly to anything, because it's all meant to go. Like a hermit crab, at some point, you're going to have to outgrow that shell and find something new. So you've got to let it go. With all water signs, if you find yourself overwhelmed, like just overwrought and overwhelmed, or more importantly, angry all the time, which is not normal for a water sign. Water signs are very emotionally and psychically fluid. It's not their nature to be angry and volatile. That kind of energy is too harsh and much more in keeping with fire signs, or air signs who are given to these, prone to these explosions. So if you find yourself being really like upset all the time, it's really important you check your environment and you find ways to detox your environment. Because oftentimes there's something that is going on that's been going on for a long time, you've been avoiding, because it's a very water sign thing to do, that does need to be addressed. And once that's cleared out, then everything can move forward. If you are an earth sign, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, one of the things that's going to feel, some of the things are going to feel most authentic and genuine for you have a lot to do with the material world. Nobody navigates the material world as comfortably as you guys do. The thing about it, though, is that when that earth energy, when the sun is undernourished and it's in an earth sign, we can see an excess of earthen behavior, right? So hoarding, greed, gluttony, right? Selfishness, mine. This consumerism, buying just to buy things, having things just to have things, or needing bigger, better, faster, more amazing things than the other person, right? Think of the race to space between the billionaire man babies, Jeff Bezos and what's his face, Elon Musk, right? So, it's, oh no, but my rocket's bigger. Ugh. Anyway, to hell with everybody starving to death on the planet. No, we're just going to build rockets to space to amuse ourselves. So when the earth sun is undernourished, it tends to overcompensate in that way, in very earthy ways. It's all about material things, material possessions, and status, right? Can't just be a pair of high heels. Oh no, honey. Has to be Louboutins, right? Shoes you can't even walk in. Anyway, some of the things that will help fortify that earth position when you feel yourself really lagging is to literally take comfort in the things that you have. Return to simplicity. Learn to, or remind yourself. You already know this, so you just need to remind yourself about the value of the things that you do have and your keen eye for value, because you typically don't buy things unless they have long-term potential value. So remind yourself that you have, the ability to make good investment in even the smallest of things. So you may not have anything big and flashy right now, or may not have access to it, but that doesn't mean that you can't go to a thrift store and find a multi-million-dollar painting somebody thought was, grandma's ugly old whatever. If you are a Taurus, food and the couch are both your best friend and the bane of your existence. So, on the one hand, good food and good places to put your butt will always make you happy and bring you comfort. But being productive and doing something with your hands, really creating something, whether it's food or something nice to put on the couch, will make you feel much better. So being productive with your material goods will make you much happier. And also, too, the thing with earth signs to remember is that earth signs, the earth element, just like water, is here to be of service. Didn't know that, did you? Earth and water are both service elements. So people with suns in earth signs are all here and feel best when they're being of service, either to other people or to a greater good. Take your pick, but it's about being of service. So Taurus are the builders of the zodiac, and when you build things, you're being of service to the people around you. Virgo is the problem solver of the zodiac. And if you've ever known a Virgo, they're absolutely about being of service by bringing order out of chaos, right? Or trying to fix you because you didn't know you need to be fixed. And of course, Capricorn is also of service because Capricorn is the manager, and Capricorn likes to be the person who's kind of, executing orders and making sure things are being done in the way they're supposed to be in resource management. And remember, people are resources too. So Capricorn likes to make sure that everything is working smoothly and together and in operational design, because otherwise without it, there'd be absolute chaos and somebody has to run the ship. So if your sun in an earth sign is feeling a little undernourished or a little challenged, consider first that being of service will make you feel a lot better, because that is the natural essence of earth and water. The other is, remember that you navigate the material world more easily than anybody else. So if anybody has an understanding of the finite nature of the world and situations, and how to maximize your return on your investment of time or effort, you do. So stop feeling sorry for yourself, dust yourself off, and take a look at the resources you're working with and find a new plan. You know you can. All right. And the next one is going to be fire signs. So, no, we're going to do the air signs. Sorry, air signs. We'll do fire signs last. So the air signs are Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. And they represent communication and connection and the bridging of the present and the future, the bridging of minds together, the thing that links us all together so we can make forward motion. With the sun in air signs, what we're looking at is a deep need and desire and curiosity about what's going on in the world at any given time, anywhere, all the time, with everyone. So air signs, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra, are all very curious about other people. They are very social signs. Even the antisocial ones are social. Don't you kid yourself. They're very social signs in that they're very curious about how the world is progressing and what people are doing in it and what those people over there are doing and how are they getting that done and how did that happen? That's interesting. Where did they get that idea? Gemini. All air signs are really invested in mental connections with other people because they know that joining minds is where we make the most progress and we leapfrog forward and into the future. And they're also very much about the future. So if you're a Gemini, the thing about Gemini is Gemini lives in the moment. It's in the here and now. It's the man on the street reporter. It's all about what's happening right now. Anything 5 minutes ago is yesterday's news, and that's too old and too still. Let's go, 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 go. What's happening right now? So Gemini, if the Gemini sun is undernourished, right, or not stimulated enough, it will sink to its lower expression, which is gossip, and fibbing, more than a little lying, just to keep things interesting. Because they don't think about consequences because they live in the here and now from moment to moment. There are no consequences when there's no past or future, and there's only right now. We know better, but you can't tell a Gemini that. So if you have a Gemini sun that is undernourished or overcompensating, one of the things that you can do to help burn off some of that nervous energy and make it a little bit more productive and safer to be around is by putting it in motion. A change of scenery will do them a world of good. New phases, new people, new opinions, random, anything. Things that are moving, things that are noisy, things that are new. They need new things. Like literally, they're like toddlers, like shake keys in front of them. Just oh. Except maybe instead of the keys, just maybe a car trip. Go down to the local bus stop and talk to people waiting for the next bus. Gemini needs stimulation and change of scenery to kind of shake off the dust and the cobwebs and get perspective, because for them, it's all about perspective. You got to remember that. It's all about perspective and new perspectives. With Libra as the sun sign, Libra is very curious about other people, and Libra is very much about finding different perspectives, but more specifically trying to find the essential truth of things, right? Which sounds pretty funny considering most Libras are a little loose with the truth. But it's one of these things where they like things beyond an equilibrium. And one of the things that really helps them feel more stable is they need that push-pull, between people, right? So if you've ever known a Libra, if you take a very firm stand on something, Libra instinctively goes to the other side and will take the opposite stand in equal measure, even if they don't believe it. And it's not because they're trying to be contrary as much as they're trying to keep things like, on an even keel. And also, too, little known fact, a lot is because internally, Librans are extremists. They're constantly battling their own internal demons, which are literally like seesaws that are going out of control. So they're never completely sure what they actually think or feel, because it's always one extreme or the other, depending on what time of day it is and what just happened. So when other people take a strong position in another direction, they instinctively are trying not to get sucked down a rabbit hole, so they'll take the other side to just try to, keep an even keel sort of stuff. But that mental gymnastics, that exercise, that push-pull, right, of opinion and debate, this is the thing that helps them stay sane and be calm. They need that gentle back and forth, not all out war, but just gentle back and forth to kind of re-examine things and find perspective, and also to give them a better sense of how the world and themselves can be seen. It's a little weird, but if you know Libras, it literally could be anything from the pros and cons of the new ketchup bottle cap, to approaches to peace in the Middle East. Like, pick your thing, and and take a firm stand, and they'll immediately take the opposite one, and then the debates are going. But it's good exercise for them. It makes them feel better. With Libras also, music. And so just, it's a sign of war and love. Music helps a lot. Music and beautiful things. If you have a Libra sun and you're surrounded by ugliness or chaos or vulgarity, you're not going to be a happy person. You're not. I mean, the only person who's more refined is Virgo. And they call Virgo prissy. But that's not really what it is. This is very much about refinement and genteelness, right? So if you have a Libra sun and that's the situation, you might want to find a way to put yourself in less coarse or vulgar surroundings, because that will not do your mental health any good. And Aquarius, oh my God, Aquarius. So if you have an Aquarius sun, oh my gosh, things that will help you keep your head together so that you don't get too far out there is literally ideas. You need progressive, forward-thinking ideas. You do not need insane, cuckoo conspiracy theories. And you guys love that stuff because it's easy. For you, it's easy. And it doesn't take much to be clever doing conspiracy theories. And watching other people really swallow it, hook, line, and sinker, is endless entertainment for you guys. But I'm telling you, there are better ways to use that high-speed brain of yours. So if you have an Aquarius sun and you're feeling like it's undernourished or it's just not in a great place, some things that would really help is getting yourself around new and different and strange and completely random foreign people who live lives and think things that are completely alien to anything you're familiar with, and giving yourself a chance to kind of absorb, right, and see and hear, how the world works with such incredibly different people from yourself. Because Aquarius, when it all comes down to it, Aquarius is still ruled by Uranus, and it's very much about all those striking differences that make other people so wonderfully bizarre and colorful and strange and frightening. So go to the mall. Go to the mall. Or a bus stop or anywhere else that will put you in a place where you can be around random collections of people you would not otherwise spend time with. And for Aquarians, that's pretty much everybody, because you don't really like people that much. We know. Okay. Oh, right. Fire signs. So this brings us to the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Now, the fire signs have it very easy because the sun loves being in a fire sign. So in many ways, the sun in a fire sign has its easiest, most authentic expression. I mean, fire signs don't have a lot of self-consciousness or self-awareness, but it's okay because they get away with it because they're literally children of the sun. So if you have the sun in Aries and your sun is undernourished or challenged, one of the things that may happen is you may come off as a braggart or a blowhard. You may be such an egomaniac that people literally can't stand you because you're competing with everybody, constantly pushing to the front of the line. I am the great I am. If that is the case, or the other side of that is the sun in Aries that's terrified of their own shadow. If that is the case, the antidote for that is literally going to be finding something that you are afraid of, that nobody else knows about, of course, because you would never admit to being afraid of something. Risking failure or embarrassment and doing it. Every act of courage for an Aries sun, and by courage, I don't mean doing things because you're going to have a glorious parade thrown for you if you do this thing. When I say courage, I mean doing the thing that you've been avoiding even admitting you're afraid to do because it will involve potential embarrassment or failure. Those things are the things that you should be pursuing and taking the charge on. Once you conquer that thing, whatever that thing is, or one of those many things, that will do 1,000 times more for your mental health than anything else you can ever attempt to devise for yourself. Sagittarius. If you have the sun in Sagittarius, you are the clever clown that everyone loves. But if your sun is undernourished or being challenged, you may find, let me rephrase that. You won't find this. Other people will find this. Other people will find you are remarkably irresponsible and self-rationalizing. You will make huge messes of other people's lives. You will take no responsibility for any of it or hold yourself accountable for any of it. And you will happily skip along as fast and as far as you can go, making messes as you go along until something catches up with you and you can't run away anymore. Yeah, that's nice, right? So, my friends, if you have the sun in Sagittarius and it's a little undernourished or it's a little challenged, one of the things that will help is by remembering your deeply principled nature. Ethics and principles are like the big Hallmark cards you like to send yourself every year to congratulate yourself on being so high-minded. Putting those things into action and living by those ethics and principles, really living by them, will make a huge difference in your ability to look yourself in the mirror and not make excuses for yourself and feel bad about it and make more excuses for yourself. And then running out of excuses and needing to go find a whole new environment so you don't have to keep making excuses for the bad behavior from the last place. You are a principled and ethical creature when you want to be. So perhaps if you're not feeling well, that is the part of your life where you need to maybe shine a little light on. And Leo, if you are a Leo sun, you are the most blessed of all the zodiac signs because the sun is your ruler. So when the sun is undernourished, when the sun is undernourished or challenged, you may actually be a stick in the mud. You may be rigid. You may be completely dull and full of yourself, and judgmental. Never saw that coming, did you? So with the sun in Leo, if this is the case, and other people are going to accuse you of being egomaniacal, which just kind of goes with the territory, but I'm telling you, these other qualities are signs for you to recognize there's something wrong. If you find that this is the case, giving yourself permission to be dramatic and creative and wonderfully larger than life is absolutely the antidote for what ails you. And to hell with everybody thinking you're an egomaniac. They always think people who are dramatic and colorful and larger than life are egomaniacs. Because, I don't know, maybe sometimes we are. Maybe sometimes we're not, and it's just other people having such weak, fragile egos that they're resentful that we're so comfortable with ourselves. Whatever the case may be, sorry, whatever the case may be, the most important thing for the Leo sun to understand is that they are here to shine and radiate and inspire and be performers and show people what's possible when you're willing to embrace yourself wholly and completely and love that inner teenager, right? My inner child is a juvenile delinquent. But to love and embrace that romantic teenage part of yourself, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's a beautiful thing, right? And with Leo suns, you never really outgrow that, which is great because it reminds us all of what we need more of in life. So, this has turned out longer than I expected. So this is a start. So if you're struggling with some mental health or some emotional health issues or even some depression, take a look at your sun and consider how you might fortify your sun just based on the element that it's in. Now, there are a lot of other considerations that go into this because we're looking at aspects to the sun, supportive or challenging aspects. We're looking at the houses. If we have houses, there's a whole lot of other layers and levels to understanding the function of the sun in a chart that will play into this. Winston Churchill, I would recommend you read up on him. He's a fascinating character who had black dog depressions. And during his black dog depressions, not only did he manage himself long before we ever had, he was from World War II, before we even had medication for depression, right? And certainly we didn't have mental health supports. But he found a way to manage himself and was also wildly productive during those times, even though he was pretty much almost suicidally depressed for months at a time. He's given us a great collection of deep thought and works and art, and it's been amazing. So I would look him up if I had some time. So when you look at your sun, look at ways to fortify your sun, because the problem is if you're struggling with mental health or you're struggling with emotional health or you're struggling with depression, circumstantial or otherwise, and your sun is weak and undernourished along with it, it's going to make it even harder to deal with anything, right? And to recover yourself. Because honestly, when you're going through times like this and you're in crisis, it feels like your parts of you are all over the place, like literally, oh my God, like paper confetti that just kind of fell everywhere. And now we have to go and recover those parts of ourselves and pull ourselves back together again. So there's that. And also remember, when it comes to identity or the sun in the chart or you in life, right? Your identity is not about being that thing or that famous or having that kind of money. We've got a lot of examples that are really clear examples these days of people who have money, status, fame. They are horrible human beings. These are people no one would trust their children, and are hardly role models for anyone in the future. Dear Lord, or at least not good ones. And these are deeply, deeply unhappy people. Like, oh my God, the hate and misery just oozing out of them. That, oh, wow, right? But they got everything else we're supposed to want when you're doing well in life. So the fact of the matter is, those external things are not about identity. You and your work and your process and your identity in this lifetime has everything to do with who you're becoming in here and the places where you're meant to become stronger so that you can help guide other people through those darknesses. Okay? Not everybody comes in with an easy ride. Some of us are coming in with really bumpy, dangerous, choppy, traumatic rides as we become who we're supposed to be. And it's not fair, at least not on the surface. And it doesn't have to be fair. What matters is that you are kind to yourself and you set reasonable expectations about what the definition of a successful life is for yourself, and what a successful identity is going to be for you. And none of these things have anything to do with what's out there. You got to believe that. So when you look at the sun signs on a chart and you look at somebody else's zodiac sign, understand that that's a very limited slice of the pie. It's like literally one teeny tiny part out of about 500 potential other pieces of information that all have to weave together to make a complete picture. You are more complicated than your sun sign. So be amazed at that. That's pretty awesome. And don't hold yourself so rigidly to, simple formulas for who you're supposed to be. You're being exactly who you're supposed to be. You're exactly where you need to be in the process. You're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. And if you need help, ask for help. Nobody gets through this life by themselves. So find a hand to hold to pull you out of the water if you need it. And we'll be here waiting for you. All right.